What's up guys, it's Ella. Welcome to my channel whether you're new here or not. Today we're going to be recommending books to my friends. And he's gonna go lay on the bed and probably make noises that you can hear throughout the video, like he always does. Like I said, today we are going to be recommending books to my friends. How this is going to go is I already texted my friends who read, or who I know read, and asked them to send me tropes or storylines in books that they have read that they really like and want to read more of. So I am going to, I went through and I tried to recommend books that I have read that match those tropes and descriptions, but there were a couple of them that stumped me. I'm looking at you, Brie. There were a couple of them that stumped me, and I had to come up with something via research. I had to research for the answer. So that's what we're doing today. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into the video. Let's get out my little handy dandy list and see which friend is first. Side note, once again, every video, any noises you hear are Crosby. He's right here, just slightly off camera, being lovely as always. And like that snort, that was Crosby. Anyway, I feel like I have to say that in every video. We persevere. Let's go. The first friend that I am going to recommend a book to is my friend Kay. She wants an argument between enemies that turns into a love confession. Okay, Kay, I got you. Sorry if my angle or anything changed. I had to switch cards real quick. Anyway, as I was saying, Kay wants an enemies to lovers turned angry love confession, and I got her covered. So my first recommendation for this is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This book is, I'm gonna give a very brief synopsis about these books. So this book is about the son of the first female president of the United States being in love with the Prince of England. The two have a falling out, or not a falling out even, because they were never friends or anything. They had an international incident, is actually what it was called. They had an international incident where people were like, oh, they don't get along, America and England hate each other, and the press and their PR people were like, hey, actually we have to fix this, you guys have to pretend to be friends, and they turn into much more, and there is an angry love confession. We also have Daughter of the Pirate King, which is one of my 5-star reads. I absolutely love Daughter of the Pirate King. This book is by Trisha Levenseller, and it is about the daughter of the Pirate King. It is about a girl who, her father is if the pirates were a mafia, she would be the mafia boss. She would be the mob boss. So that's, or he would be, her dad would be, I'm sorry. He's a bad, bad man, and one day, to get back at her father, a group of pirates kidnaps her, and she falls in love with the second in command on the ship, named Ryden. So, that book also has an angry love confession. Then we have the Cruel Prince / Folk of Air trilogy. This series is about Jude. She is mortal, but her half-sister is half not mortal, and one day her parents are both killed when her half-sister's bio dad tries to come and take her to the fairy world, and in doing so he ends up killing Jude's parents, so he has to take Jude and her sister along with them, and they never fit in. It's a fantasy, my words got caught in my throat. This book is a fantasy. There's a lot of political elements to it, but there is also a killer romance, and I absolutely love it. But also don't go into this book expecting a romance, expecting it to be a really good fantasy book with romantic elements, and I think you'll be a-okay. The next person I'm going to be recommending books to is my friend Katie. Katie said, I'm a sucker for romance, so these two people date when they're younger and break up only to find each other again at a later point in life. Might be common, but I don't think I've read anything like that. And Katie girl, I got you. This one is the trope of one of my favorite books of all time. I feel like y'all already know what I'm gonna say. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book is about Macy and Elliot. Macy's mom dies and leaves her dad a list of things to do to raise Macy raise Macy the way that she would have raised her had she been alive. One of them is to buy a weekend, like a getaway house, and they do that. They buy this lake house. Her dad buys this house, and she finds a boy her age in her closet, which is where he likes to read. So she spends every summer there, and she spends a lot of weekends there. And the boy's name is Elliot. He, like I said, likes to read, and that you watch them slowly fall in love until 11 years ago when something happened, and they didn't talk anymore until they reunite one day in a coffee shop. This book is phenomenal, amazing, and if you haven't read this book, what are you doing? This isn't what the cover looks like anymore. They changed the covers. So if you're like looking for it at Barnes & Noble, it looks different. But this book, phenomenal, so good. One of my 3 favorite romances of all time. I cannot recommend this book enough. So good. Now, if you're going to recommend Love in Other Words for specific tropes, you're probably also going to recommend Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This book, again, has the same vibe. There's a lake house that this girl named Percy goes to every single summer, and 2 brothers live in the house next door, and she ends up falling for one of them until 10 years ago when something happens and they don't speak anymore, and then she's back at in this lake community after the mom of the 2 boys dies, and she hasn't seen either brother since what happened and she stopped speaking to them. I will choose Love in Other Words over Every Summer After any day of the week. Like, this book is the blueprint, but Every Summer After is a really fun, cute, it's like a fun, cute summary read that has the tropes that Katie mentioned. One other one that I kind of recommend, like if you're really into books with this trope, Eleanor and Grey by Brittany C. Cherry has this trope. This book, I feel like, I don't know if it just wasn't for me. I talked about it in my June reading wrap up because that's when I read it. I don't know if this book just wasn't for me or if it's a bad book. I'm hesitant to say it's a bad book, but anyway, this book is about a girl named Eleanor and a guy named Grey, if you didn't get that from the title. They were childhood, like, friends to lovers, and then something happens, they grow apart, and she is hired several years later to be his nanny after his wife, like, he ended up, like, moving on and getting married, and his wife died, and they had 2 daughters together, and so Eleanor ends up being the nanny to Grey's children. Grumpy Sunshine. I didn't vibe with it that much, but if you are really looking for this trope, here's a recommendation. Okay, then we have Cheyenne, we've been best friends since we were like 4 years old. I love her. Anyway, she said that she wants enemies to lovers, or when both characters won't admit their feelings and then there's so much tension and build up and then they kiss and something clicks. So I guess that's a slow burn. The first one that I want to recommend to Cheyenne is Wait For It by Queen of Slow Burn, Mariana Zapata. This book is about a girl named Diana who gains custody of her brother's 2 children after her brother unfortunately passes away and he had sole custody of these boys. So she's like getting her life suitable to raise these boys. She buys a house, and one of the neighbors at her house he's got a lot going on. There's always random cars outside his house or people yelling in the street in front of his house. He's got a lot going on, and so she obviously takes notice of him. He ends up coaching one of her nephews in baseball. He's a baseball coach, and it's just kind of a slow burn, like them. I don't know. This one's tricky because it's like there's not really a plot beyond the fact that they're just like in close proximity with each other because of various situations. So that's that one. I really enjoyed it. Not my favorite Mariana, but Mariana Zapata can't write a bad book. I don't think I have yet to see evidence that Mariana Zapata can write a bad book. Speaking of Mariana Zapata not being able to write a bad book, All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata, because this is my favorite Mariana book ever. I love it. I've explained this book 1,004 times on my channel, but for the sake of, if this is the first video of mine you're watching, All Roads Lead Here is about a girl named Aurora going through a really rough breakup with her long-term partner. I'm talking like 10 years, like long term. They are going through a really rough breakup. She goes back to her roots where she was raised when she was young until her mother went on a hike, because this town in Colorado is like known for hiking. Her mom went on a hike one day and never came home, never came to pick her up from her friend's house where she was staying while her mom was hiking. Her mom was assumed dead / missing. She goes back to this town where she hasn't been to since that day happened, and she rents an Airbnb from who she thinks is a man named Tobias Rhodes, but is actually Tobias Rhodes' son. Tobias is not thrilled about this strange woman staying in his garage apartment, but he lets her stay anyway, and it's grumpy sunshine, and they end up falling in love. And I just absolutely love Tobias Rhodes with my entire Ella heart, and I absolutely adore this book with my entire Ella heart. I said it before, I'll say it again, I think I've read it 4 times this year. So good. Then we have The Spanish Love Deception, which this isn't actually a recommendation for Cheyenne because she just read this book, but this is a recommendation for anyone who's looking for books similar to the ones that Cheyenne is looking for. This book is about a girl named Lena who works at a firm with a guy named Aaron. They are professional rivals. Lena has overheard Aaron speaking negatively about her to other people in the office, so she's just not a big fan. She doesn't really know what she did to him. But one day she's talking in the break room with one of her friends at her office about how she needs a date to her cousin's wedding in Spain because she told her family back in Spain that she has a boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend. She lied. Hence the deception part. So Aaron overhears and he's like, hey, I actually also have something that I need a date for, so if you go to this thing and be my date, then I'll go to your thing and be your date. Except your thing's in Spain and mine's like in Brooklyn. So they make this agreement, Lena a little more begrudgingly than Aaron, but they do. Grumpy Sunshine, absolutely loved it. Slow burn though, because it's fake dating. Then I will also recommend to Cheyenne or anyone looking for a slow burn with a little bit more of like a taboo element, Sweet Dandelion by Michaela Smeltzer. This, I am very rarely looking for books with a taboo element, so this book wasn't for me. However, if you do like age gap books or student teacher books, I would recommend this one because it's really well written and it's really well done. However, just too taboo for me. Regardless, this book is about a girl who at her old high school, she's going into her senior year, and at her old high school there was a school shooting. This girl goes to a new high school. I can't even remember her name, but she goes to a new high school. She's going into her senior year, and she has an assigned guidance counselor because of the trauma she's been through, ends up falling in love with that guidance counselor, which like breaks a lot of rules. So because of all the things that they have to overcome, the age gap, the power imbalance, etc., it is a slow burn because they have a lot to get over. So that's that book. Like I said, it's more taboo, but it is a slow burn. And if you are looking to read a taboo romance, I recommend that one. Up next, we have my friend Summer. Summer wanted something that was romantic, but also scary. So I have 2 recommendations for her. The first recommendation that I have for Summer isn't necessarily like scary, but it is tense, and that's Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. Like I said, this book is not scary, but it is about this girl. Her name is Lily Wilder. Her dad's name was Duke Wilder, and Duke Wilder was a famous adventurer. He was someone who was always in like the wild, wild west. This is my lasso. If you were wondering what that was. And he was supposedly had maps to all this buried treasure and was always trying to find it. Lily just wanted to live on a ranch and raise horses, but her dad ends up selling the ranch, and to make money after her father passes away, she leads tours of people who are going to be like cowboys for a day or a week. I guess it's cowboys for a week, and she takes them out into the wilderness in Utah and they find treasure. They don't actually find treasure. It's also a romance because she fell in love with the ranch hand, like the guy who helped out on the ranch before her father sold it, but then he had to go back home to New York City. He was a city boy. His name was Leo Grady, and he had to go back to New York City for a family emergency and then just like ghosted Lily. So she never knew really what happened there until one day he takes one of her tours and maybe they find like real treasure. I don't know. But it gets really crazy. It's a wild book. Like, it was not what I was expecting. It's not what I'm usually expecting of a Christina Lauren, but I didn't hate it. And the more that I look back on it, the more I'm like, they really did something fun and funky and fresh and different, and I appreciate that. So
not scary necessarily, but it is wild and tense and a little bit out there. The next books, I guess, I can't actually believe I'm gonna recommend on this channel just because they're a lot. The Kingdom Duet by Rena Kent. These books are Reign of a King and Rise of a Queen, okay? And this book is part of like a much larger series, but it's like the duet that's almost like preemptive, I think. I don't know where it falls in with the series because I haven't read the series. Okay, so this book is about a guy named Jonathan who his wife died, and he decides that he's gonna set his sights on her younger sister, which was really cute of him to do. And it's like dark, I guess. It's dark for me. I don't read a lot of dark-ish romance. I don't read a lot of like super alpha possessive heroes. This book wasn't my thing. I mean, I did give it 4 stars because there was like a mystery element to it. So that's kind of where we're going with this. Yeah, it's like a dark billionaire romance, and I think also there was like some suspicious behavior surrounding her big older sister's death, or there's like a murder aspect. I don't know. This recommendation isn't that solid, but I do think that it's like romantic and suspenseful and tense-ish. I remember read this almost 3 years ago, and I haven't really thought about it since, but when I was going back to my Goodreads, I was like, yeah, I think that one had like a murdery element to it. So perhaps maybe this one? Okay, up next we have Abby. Abby said, okay, a girl who secretly hides her chronic illness from her boyfriend because she's too embarrassed. Now, this one was tricky. However, I have books with characters with a chronic illness, not always the woman, but sometimes the woman. And then I also, only one of these books, they're hiding the illness from them. So I like combined them. There's a little bit of like everything, you know? Okay. So the first one is Always Only You by Chloe Lisi. This is the first book in the Bergman Brothers series. This book is a sports romance. I'm sorry, this book is the second in the Bergman Brothers series. Anyway, this book is about Ren and Frankie. Ren is a hockey player and Frankie works for the hockey team in like a management position, and she has MS. I want to say MS? Yeah, so she has MS, and I believe she's autistic. Anyway, this book is kind of reverse Grumpy Sunshine, where Frankie is grumpy and Ren is sunshine. They are forbidden because of their coworker like situation, and I just really adore this entire series. Next up we have Hate Notes by Vi Keeland. This book is about a girl who goes into a thrift shop one day and like is trying on wedding dresses for fun, and in the like attached to the tag, it's the word, of a wedding dress, she finds a blue like note, and she is just absolutely like, it's clearly a note from the groom to the bride on their wedding day, and she is just so enthralled and obsessed and in love with this love story that she has to meet the man behind the love note. So she somehow tracks him down, because I think there's also a business card maybe attached to the wedding dress, not totally sure, but she tracks him down, meets him, and he is not it. He is not what she thought he would be, and she's very disappointed, but he winds up being her boss, and she finds out why, you know, the wedding didn't go through, or why they are no longer together, and why that marriage didn't work out. And there's a character with a chronic illness that is hiding it from the other person. The third one is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This book is about Chloe Brown, who comes from a very wealthy family. She has a chronic illness. She comes from a very wealthy family, and she is finally out on her own and like moves into her first apartment, only for her landlord to be just an absolute jerk. So it's like enemies to lovers, forced proximity, because they both live in this apartment building. And they just seem like they're total opposites. But it's almost like grumpy. Like, I don't think I'd call Chloe a sunshine character. I don't know. I really liked this book. I really liked this whole series. I don't think Chloe has a specified, like, on paper what her chronic illness is. But they do talk about chronic illness, and there's a lot of really good moments where that is brought up, but she doesn't hide it. So that's kind of where I had to combine a few things. But in Hate Notes, it is hidden. And then in Always Only You, it's not hidden. So, and then we have Bree. Bree really stumped me. I'm not gonna lie. Bree really stressed me out. Bree said, okay, a storyline in a book I'd love to read is a love story that follows the structure of a Greek tragedy with no happy ending, in the least sadistic way possible. Okay, Bree, let me see what I can do. So this was one of the ones that I actually had to research because I don't read a lot of Greek. No, not a lot. I don't read a lot of books based on Greek mythology, and if there is a glaringly obvious one that fits this trope, first of all, I'm not going to spoil the ending here. Second of all, I know, and she just read that one, and that's why she doesn't want, like, she wants more books like that one. The ones that we are talking about after much research are the Penelope Ad by Margaret Atwood. This is the lady who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes, and I, after reading the description for this one, actually really want to pick this up. So maybe I will pick this one up sometime in the future. And then we have Circe by Madeline Miller, who wrote The Song of Achilles. And I think if you enjoyed The Song of Achilles, you'll probably enjoy Circe, maybe, possibly. Okay, then we have Sarah, and Sarah said, a romance novel that starts with the two main characters meeting randomly in a bookstore, coffee shop, or some other random setting. Maybe they keep running into each other but end up together in the end. Okay, so I have two recommendations for this, and I think they're both sitting right next to me. One of them is Set on You by Amy Leah. This book is about a girl who is a curvy fitness influencer, and one day at the gym, this guy, a Chris Evans lookalike firefighter, lovely man, steals her squat rack, and so they see each other at the gym very frequently and have like a rivalry going. They also have another connection that you find out pretty early in the book, but not early enough that I'm willing to like say it here because I don't want to spoil it. But they have another connection too, so that kind of goes with like they keep running into each other, but they also consistently see each other at the gym and consistently like harass each other. It goes with like they keep running into each other kind of thing, and obviously it's a romance, so they do end up together in the end. The next one is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I'm recommending this book, which is about a girl named Jessica Davis. She's a single mom, and she is a freelance accountant person, something like that. And she works in the same coffee shop every single day, and at the same coffee shop every single day that she works at, this man comes in and orders an Americano. His name is River Pena, and he is a founder / CEO of a company called Genetically, which tries to find you a romantic match or like a soulmate based on certain elements of your DNA. And so he convinces Jessica to take this test, this blood match, and it comes back that she is a 98% match, which is an unheard of amount of matching with River, even though they don't get along and don't really like each other and they come from very different worlds. You know, the grumpy sunshine vibe. So they fake date because of that. I recommend this one because they consistently meet at this coffee shop, and that's how they get themselves into the situation. So that's that one. There you go, Sarah. And then the last one is from Carly Girl, who I love with my whole heart. And it's I Love Enemies to Lovers, specifically the kind where person A gets hurt and shows up at person B's door, and person B goes, who did this to you? I'll kill them. So I would love to see that in some sort of fantasy book. And I actually have several of those. Some of them are fantasy. yeah, I have 2 fantasy, 1 not fantasy. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This one's not fantasy, it's contemporary romance, but it does have that trope, and I think it does it so incredibly well. I loved that trope specifically in this book. Olive is a 3rd-year PhD student at Stanford, and Adam Carlson is her senior. He's a professor. And Olive, tells her best friend that she has a boyfriend so that her best friend's okay with dating a guy that she had a fling with at one point.
Hi guys, it's your friendly neighborhood editing Ella, and I just wanted to say that in this clip I'm like watching them back and my face clearly gets significantly redder, and now I look like I'm crying in these clips. I cut out a massive coughing attack that just came out of nowhere, and like I saw it was like the kind of coughing where you see stars. So I was coughing really, really hard, and then my voice, like I lost some of my voice and words were getting stuck in my throat, and it just wasn't going well, but I wasn't crying. There you go. That's why I look like that and sound like that.
Her best friend's like, I don't believe you. Olive kisses the first guy she sees, it's Adam, and then they fake date because there's a reason that it benefits him too. The next one is To Kill a Kingdom. This is a fantasy romance. It is about mermaids, kind of. It's like I think it's supposed to be a Little Mermaid retelling. I read this right around the time that I read Daughter of a Pirate King, and I like Daughter of the Pirate King a lot more, but I don't know if that's a fair comparison. Regardless, this book has the who did this to you trope, and it does it so well and so beautifully. So there's this one. And then there's From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout that I have a reading vlog up for if you are interested or curious about that. This is another fantasy romance. But it's almost like, I feel like it's the fantasy romance besides A Court of Thorns and Roses. If you haven't read it yet and you like fantasy romance, what are you doing with yourself? That's what I asked myself. Yeah, From Blood and Ash, it's about a girl who is like holds a very special role in her kingdom, and the guard, like she falls in love with the guard who is supposed to take care of her. And there's the who did this to you trope. It is lovely, 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 lovely. So there you go, guys. That was me recommending books to my friends. I don't totally know how this video went, but I feel like if you guys like it and you want me to do more, I do have more friends that I can ask to participate in this sort of video. So let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you when I see you. Bye, guys.